class, I wanted to introduce you to Jamovi. Jamovi is a statistical program that we can use, and I feel like it's a little bit easier to use than SPSS, although you can do this in SPSS if you'd like. So I've downloaded Jamovi, and now I need some data. So I'm going to go to the data that we used, what did I call this? Statistics Surveys 1 response. You can find this at this tinyurl.com/stats1results. And this should just take you straight to the Google Doc where you have your responses here. Now that I'm in this Google Sheets, I need to download it. So I'm going to go to File, Download, and go down here to a comma-separated values sheet. I found that this was the best that works with Jamovi, so I'm just going to go ahead and save File. And now I want to put this into Jamovi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these 3 dots up here on the left-hand side, go to Import, and I'm going to look it up. Statistics Surveys 1 response. And then I'm just gonna click yes. It started to import all of my data that we have here. But it also has these weird A, B, and C. You can actually delete these. You could, on a Windows, you can hit just delete variable, and it asks you if you want to delete column A, column B, so I'm right-clicking, going down to delete. So if you go into data, there's all these different things, you can hit delete. So now I just am left with the data that I have. If you don't want to delete it, you don't have to. It just sometimes is easier. The next thing I want to do is make sure that my variables are named, right? So right now, it's really hard to read this. How old, blah, blah, blah. How do you, I want to make sure that I can read that really easily. So I can either go into data and go to setup, or I can double click on the top of the variable. So one of the things I want to do is create a variable name that makes sense. So how old are you? It makes sense to call that age. One of the great things about Jamovi is it still retains that original information. So it does still have here, how old are you? But now you can see that the variable name has changed up here at the top to actually say age. If you need a further description, you can add one. It's up to you if you need one. The next thing I want to do is talk about what type of variable this is. So, how old are you? Please write your age in years to a whole number. I would say that is actually not a nominal variable, right? Because nominal is just named categories that do not have an order, right? But we know that the age of 19 is younger than 20. So it's not ordinal necessarily, because you could technically write in any age. You can be from 0 to 150. So instead, this is a continuous variable. We also call this an interval variable. So I changed it now to continuous. So you can see that both the little icon changed. So all of these kind of have like the nominal icon. This now has that continuous icon. The other thing that you can do is change the data type. The data type tells you whether or not this is an integer, which just means whole numbers, decimal, which means that you can have decimal places. So if we did GPA, for example, there's decimal place there. And text just means that it's written words. So in this case, it is integer. So now I'm done with that one, right? So now I have my variable name that's easier to look at. I have a continuous measure, and it's integer. I'm going to show you how to do this for now gender, which is the next one. So you can actually click through this going left and right. So I'm just going to go right, and I'm going to change this, right, because I can't read that whole variable name. So I'm going to change this to gender. And you can see here that we have female and male. So those are the different levels. And we can put in our measure type. So our measure type here, let's see, is it named variables? Yes. These do not have any order, right? I can't order male and female, so it's not ordinal. So this is just a nominal variable. Then we also know that this is just written in levels, so it's just text. If we go to the next one, what year are you in college? So maybe I'm going to put this as year. You can name it whatever you'd like. I can see here I have junior, senior, and sophomore. Now, these are, right, just different categories, but we could rearrange them, right? So I'm going to call this ordinal because now I can rearrange them, because senior is actually the most senior of the three, whereas sophomore, I can click up. So now it makes more sense. So I have sophomore, junior, and senior that are all here. And it's in a specific order. So I do have to change the order that are in these levels for my ordinal variable. You can see the data type remains a text because that's all we have, right? So it's not a number, so I can't do integer or decimal. So I want you to try this next one. So pause this video and try how many miles away is your hometown to see if you can figure out, first, what would you call it? Second, what measure type would you have? Would it be nominal, ordinal, or continuous? I didn't talk about ID, but ID is just how do we identify each participant. In this case, maybe it's the timestamp, but we're just not going to deal with that right now. So nominal, ordinal, or continuous. And I want you to think, is this a whole number, so it's an integer? Is it decimals, where we actually included decimal places, or is it text? So pause this video and change this next variable. So I hope that you've changed this variable. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to call this distance. You could call it whatever you'd like, right? This is a continuous variable, right? Because you can be anywhere from 0 miles to, looks like 211 might be your biggest. And it's integer because we don't have any decimal places. So if I scroll down here, I can look and there are no decimal places whatsoever. I'm going to go back to my setup and you'll see that it still says continuous and integer. And let's try the next one. So again, pause this and try to write in the variable name, what's the measure type, and what's the data type. So as we come back, maybe I would put this as stats. I'm going to put stats underscore software. So you can use underscores. You can also use just a space in between if you'd like. This is a nominal variable, right? I can't necessarily order this. I mean, maybe I could order it, but it almost doesn't make sense to order it. Maybe we can order it. So I would put no, maybe yes. Right? So this is now ordered on have you ever used it, right? no being like a 0, maybe being a 1, and 2 being a yes. So I could order that. I will say that's ordinal. If you chose nominal, that would also make sense. But here there is some order that we can have. And again, this is data type text. So we have 2 more variables to do. How comfortable are you with using video conferencing? Video conferencing tools like Zoom. So you'll see here, one of the things that's kind of odd about Jamovi is that it only gives you the levels that are there. Whereas if you go to the original data, and the way that you can look at that original data is going to tinyurl.com/FA21, so fall 21, stats 1. So if I look at my stats survey, how comfortable are you with using video conferencing tools like Zoom? It goes from 1 to 5. 1 is not at all comfortable, and 5 is very comfortable. So the weird thing about Jamovi sometimes is that it doesn't show us all of the levels. So that might be something that we have to consider and change. But I want you to right now change the name of the variable, change the measure type and the data type to make most sense. So if this was me, maybe I'd put comfortable on Zoom as the variable name. As you can see, that's not a great name because you can't read it all down here on the actual data. So we might have to think about this. Maybe I just call it comfort for right now. And I can actually write in like, how comfortable are you on Zoom to kind of help me remember this. And we'll see why in later classes. Measure type, hopefully you know that is ordinal, right? Because this is measured on an ordinal scale. So I have a scale from 1 to 5, but I don't really know what the difference is between a 1 and a 2. So my 1 might be your 2 and your 2 might be my 3. You know, it's kind of hard to know. And this is integer. Levels. I don't even know if I can add any more levels. I don't think I can add any more levels. So this did come in the right order, 2, 4, and 5, which is really what I want to see. And for this last one, which is better, cats or dogs? So go ahead, change the variable name, and figure out the measure type and the data type. So I'm going to call this cat dog. And this is nominal, right? I can't order cats and dogs, even though I might think that cats are better than dogs. I can't really order those things. And this is just going to be text again. So at the end, now you should see, here, let me make this bigger. So now you should see that we have new names for every single one of them. And those little icons at the top are telling me what type of variable this is. So for age, that's not telling me it's continuous. Gender, it is a nominal variable. Year is a ordinal variable. That little a means that it is alphanumeric. It really means that it's not a number, it's text. Distance is continuous. Stat software, I put it as ordinal, but you could have left it as nominal as well. Comfort as being ordinal, and cat dog being nominal. So that is just how we set up our data in Jamovi, and trying to teach us a little bit more and think a little bit more about what the differences are in the different types of variables that we have.